When we watch professional-looking actual play series here on the YouTube, we see characters with individual and distinct voices. Are we even proper DMs or players if we're not doing voices all the time too? Yes, we are. No, we don't have to. Maybe there's a third option. Get a cup of tea, a mirror, and let's dive into it. Doing a voice is scary. It smacks of let's pretend games as a kid. It makes us vulnerable. And some people say we shouldn't do accents because that's racist. Let me take these worries away. The first way I'll show you is the easiest thing to do. It'll give your characters and NPCs unique flavour, and you can do it without any practice. The second takes a little work, but it's also quite easy. I will be setting homework at the end. Professional voice actors knowingly being filmed for an audience is not a typical role-playing game, and the first thing I urge you to do is to stop thinking your game night has to live up to their standards. You wouldn't wonder, why aren't my hobby games of tennis with my relatives more like international gymnastics tournaments? Stop it. Maybe you don't feel comfortable drastically altering the pitch of your voice. Some people do have very high or deep voices, and it's not comfortable for your throat. Your friends get startled. The NPC you hadn't intended to be a comedy character is being laughed at. There's two methods I suggest. I've used both at different times, and sometimes I use both together. The first one is this. Even if you're reporting the speech, any character can sound distinctive. The barman addresses you with a loud booming voice and talks about. The apothecary mumbles and slurs her words as she explains to you that the strange bird-like creature's voice is a caw and a crackle, and you hear from it that, I know, your first reaction is to say that that sounds like cheating. I'm describing a voice rather than doing a voice. But think about the last fantasy book you read. Did the author phonetically set out the accents for the creatures, or just tell you what they said and let your imagination do the rest? This is exactly the same as what happens when you describe a scene to your players. There's a sweet spot where they have the information bullet points and then their imagination draws in all the rest. Does it matter if everyone is picturing the room with a different ceiling heights or wallpapers? No, you don't need that. You don't need NPC portraits, and you don't need photorealistic battle maps. A few key details, very few, and then let their minds do the rest. It'll be higher resolution in here. Who is it? The Queen, the Goblin, a robot. What adjective can we use? Imperiously, with a chuckle, in halting bursts. Other ways a voice can be distinctive without doing a voice include languages, sounds, manners. Does the man who has emerged from the barrow wiping cobwebs from his beard keep saying thee and thou instead of you? It can be as simple as that. They'll know who's speaking when they hear it. Use status. Pepper their speech with apologies or commands. Straighten your back or hunch over. Have a catchphrase or a catch sound. In a game of Nexus, the Infinite City, that I ran way back when, one of the prominent NPCs, a fixer for a seedy crime cartel, would often whistle through their teeth while I hurriedly decided what to say next. Later in the adventure, while the PCs were arguing out in the street, I just had to start quietly whistling to myself for one of them to suddenly wheel around and go, "Ah, Mr. Consequence, didn't see you there," alerting everyone to the fact that they were being overheard. If you want to work up to voices, maybe try this first. So that's method one. Method two is not necessarily instead of, but more in addition to. Do a different voice, but not all the time. If you're worried your players won't take an NPC seriously if she says, "Hello, I'm Queen Matilda," then use method one for that character. I don't use either of these methods to do voices for everyone the party meets. But when I do, I need to make sure I can do the same voice again, not just in a session next week or a month's time, but in 20 minutes time on the same night. So I write down in my notes for the NPC which voice they have. And if you've seen my video about stress-free NPC creation, you'll correctly guess when I do that. And I say which voice because I don't have that many, and some of them do get used for a lot of NPCs, but basically they all fall into one or more of these categories. First up is a bad impression of someone. The players don't need to know I'm trying to do Paul Daniels, ho ho, but I've dialed it up slightly too far. It's good for a gnome or some sort of flying creature, something little. Alternatively, this could be a badger in a game of Root, and I might throw in some nose sniffles and be sure to avoid saying you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off, so they won't realise I'm awful at Michael Caine. The secret here, and it's glorious, is if you don't tell them who it's supposed to be, then it's not a bad voice for Michael Caine, it's the right voice for Punchberry, the argumentative badger. Impressions often have an anchor phrase that gets you into character, like, hello, my name is Michael Caine. And we can use that idea for any NPC voice, either method. Next is what face I pull when I do the character. This helps me feel like I'm speaking as someone else. What shape is the mouth? Where in the throat is the voice coming from? Is it coming from up in the nose? Or from the very back of the throat? Be a bit careful not to overdo vocal fry. What do your players associate with these sort of voices? Which characters might they suit? And once they have their preconceptions in place, feel free to play with this and go against type. This shape of mouth is perhaps a bird creature. Whereas this is some sort of big frog. Yes, I sound like a complete idiot doing this outside of a game into a microphone in my living room. And if you want to do this, I urge you to find somewhere you can practice. Get over the initial hesitation so you can describe the voice and then do the voice. In the car, in the shower, in an empty elevator. What about accents? Could racial accents be racist? Yes, you might be mistaking race for nationality, and you might be generalizing the diverse communities within countries based on a few stereotypical characters who've made it into media you've seen or rather heard. There is no one singular African accent, just as there's no one singular American accent. If we're playing Torg and the characters visit the Nile Empire, then I can just say, in a heavy Egyptian accent, the bookseller tells you about her recent trip to the market. And later the players can ask other NPCs, did you speak to a woman in the market with a heavy Egyptian accent? And it doesn't matter that none of us are phonetically trying it on, just as it wouldn't need to be sounded out in a book. Regional accents are in general okay from within your home country. If you do find the player recognizes a specific voice as the bad guy voice or the stupid person voice, then I want you to sit back and think about your attitudes to those communities. But the villagers, for example, in the horror genre, aren't stupid, they just ain't city folk. All of our villagers sound like this, the famously geographically vague Marmoset accent. All of these can be used in parallel, and I often don't do any of it. If I'm feeling tired especially, I might stick entirely to reported speech. And I've been a game master for more than 40 years, so please don't let anyone who's watched a few Matt Mercer videos tell you that you're wrong and dwarves don't sound like that. Here's your homework. Get a mirror, look in it, try it out. Think of a key phrase for an existing character that you might have to hand, and try it with different impressions of celebrities or mouth shapes or statuses, face pulling. When you find one that works, write down the key phrase you're coming up with, anything else you need to remind you about the voice, and it's done. Come back later and leave a comment downstairs about how that went. I'll be looking out for them. And for more on my approach to NPC creation, watch this video next.